Welcome to the fourth session of ASP.NET programming. In the last session, we mainly discussed to develop a calculator. Programming constructs were used, session variables used, and also conditional statements were used. In the current session, we are going to use another set of controls, that is list controls. List controls. For that, we shall add a new web form. Click on the project menu, add new item. From that, click on the web form and click add button. Web form 4.aspx is display. Click on the design view. Here we can see a drop-down list control. Drop-down list. Drop-down list control is used to list a set of items. How to add the list of items in this design view? I have right click on the control. When I right click on the control, a shortcut menu appears. Click on the properties. The properties window will be displayed here. Then locate items property. Locate the items property. Here is the items. The right side you can see it is a collection property. It is not a single value property. It is a collection property. The collection of items, the group of items to be displayed in the drop-down list. It is that property. Beside the collection label, a browse button is displayed. Click on the browse button. List item collection editor is displayed. How many items are to be listed in the drop-down list? Click on the add button to add a list item. Suppose I am going to add a list of colors. I add a list item and change the text value into blue. Then one more item, green. Then added one more item. Select the text property, red. One more item. Select text property, violet. Click on add button. Another list item, indigo. Another one, black. Then one more, white. The first list item is in the position 0. Second will be in the position 1, and the last nth list item will be in the n-1 position. I have changed the text value, text property to blue. The text will be displayed as blue. The value property is automatically accepted the text value. Suppose I want to change the value property can be changed or edited. Right now I am not going to change it. Click on the OK button. Then execute. Upon execution, you can see the items I have entered in the list item collection editor, a set of colors. It will be displayed in the drop down list. It will be displayed in the drop down list control. Upon execution, click on the drop down list. A set of items I have entered in the list item collection editor will be displayed in the drop down list. How to add a set of items into a drop down list at design day. I think you all understood how to add a list of items into a drop down list during design day. At design day, click on the drop down list, locate properties window. From the properties window, select items property. From that items property, we can understand that it is a collection property. Click on the browse button. List item collection editor will be displayed. Enter the desired items into the list item collection editor. Then click OK button. Suppose you want to display the items or to enter the items during coding time. I have placed one more drop down list here. Here I am going to enter during coding. This is drop down list 2. The name of the drop down list is drop down list 2. Upon execution or during loading a web page, I want to display this item. Click on the web page. The page load event is the code to enter at page load event is displayed. I am going to enter a set of items into the drop down list 2. Drop down list 2 dot items dot add. Drop down list 2 dot items dot add. Suppose I am going to add a set of shapes, rectangle. Drop down list 2 dot items dot add, circle. Drop down list 2 dot items dot add, square. Drop down list 2 dot items dot add, pentagon. Drop down list 2 dot items dot add, trapezium. Drop down list 2 dot items dot add, parallelogram. Drop down list 2 dot items dot add, rhombus. A set of shapes is added here. In the drop down list 2, I am adding a set of items in the items property by use of items.add method. So during coding time, I have entered a set of shapes, a list of shapes into the drop down list. So how to add a list of items into a drop down list during coding time? By using the items.add method, where in which event we have to add the list of items. Just enter the code to add the drop down list. Here the order is rectangle, circle, square, pentagon, etc. up to rhombus. the same order I have entered here. First rectangle is added, then circle is added, square is added, etc. up to rhombus is added. In this way, a drop-down list can be populated by means of code during coding time. Suppose I want to populate a drop-down list or add a list of items during execution time. During execution time. Upon execution, I am entering an item in a text box. I am entering an item in a text box. And after that, click on this button. Suppose this button, three additional buttons. One to remove an item, another one to count the number of items in the drop-down list. Count the number of items in the drop-down list. And one more button to remove all the items, that is to clear the drop-down list. Suppose I want to remove an item that is entered in the text box. I can remove an item from drop-down list 3 using drop-down list 3 dot items dot remove. Which item should be removed? The text box 1 dot text should be removed. Text box 1 dot text should be removed. Then text box also should be cleared. It is text box 1 dot text is equal to null. We shall check whether it is executing correctly or not. Hope it may execute correctly. We shall check whether I am entering Kerala and click on the add button. It will be added here. I entered Karnataka and click on the add button. It will be entered here. And I entered Tamil Nadu. Click on the add button. It also will be entered here. Suppose I am entering Karnataka and click on the remove button. Check whether it is removed or not. Here Karnataka is removed. Right now there are only two items, Kerala and Tamil Nadu. Suppose I am selecting Kerala here and click on the remove button. The Kerala is removed from the drop down list. So upon clicking remove button, the items can be removed. Suppose I want to count the number of items in the drop down list. Count the number of items in the drop down list. Drop down list 3 dot items dot count is a count property. It should be displayed in text box 1. The text box should display upon clicking the count button. The text box should display the number of items in the text box 1 dot text is equal to drop down list 1 dot items dot count. Count property is a numeric value. We have to convert it into string by means of toString method. Since text box 1 dot text is a string property. Since the left hand side of equal to is a text property, the numeric value should be converted to string. Upon execution, we shall check whether we are getting the correct count or not. At present, the drop down list 3 has no values, no elements. Means that the count is 0. Upon clicking the count button, we are getting 0. It means that there are 0 elements in it. Now I am adding 0 to the drop down list. Here drop down list having a value 0. It means that here we have one value. The count will be 1. Okay, it is executing correctly. And suppose I want to remove all the elements from the drop down list. Clear all elements from the drop down list. Remove all elements from the drop down list. Drop down list 3 dot items dot clear. drop down list 3 dot items dot clear. All elements from the drop down list will be clear. Suppose I want to clear up my text box also, then text box 1 dot text is equal to the text property will be clear. We shall check whether it is executing or not. Shall check whether the elements in the drop down list, the element in the text box is clearing its values or not. At present there is no value. I am adding Kerala to the drop down list. Again I am adding Karnataka to the drop down list. Again I am adding Tamil Nadu to drop down list. Now the drop down list has 3 values. Click on the count. There will be 3. Click on clear. Everything is clear. Now the count will be 0. So here we saw how to add an item to drop down list, how to remove an item from drop down list, find the number of elements in the list, how many list items are there in the drop down list, how to clear all the elements from a drop down list, etc. Suppose I want to remove an item which I am selected. Select an item and click on remove button. Select an item and click on remove button. What will happen? Select an item and click on the remove button. Suppose I want to remove in such a way. For that I am adding a new button. One more remove. For that I am adding a remove button, placing a remove button here. Remove selected. Remove select. The selected element from the drop down list 3 should be removed. We know how to remove an item. Drop down list 3 dot items dot remove. Which item should be removed? The item selected in the drop down list 3. Drop down list 3 dot selected item. Drop down list 3 dot selected item. The selected item should be removed. We shall check whether it is executing correctly or not. The selected item is passed as the parameter and it should be removed from the items property. Drop down list 3 dot items dot remove. It is used to remove an item. The item will be passed as parameter. So suppose here I am adding Kerala. After that I am adding Karnataka. Then after I am adding Tamil Nadu. And I am going to add one more state, that is Goa, the 4 South Indian states. And from here I am selecting Tamil Nadu and click on remove select. It will be removed from the list. Select an element, click on the button, the selected element will be removed from the list. How to add an item, how to remove an item? Removing by selecting or removing by entering the text, count a set of items, clear an item. Here I used drop down list to demonstrate the list properties or the items property. We have a set of list controls. We have a set of list controls, that is list box, checkbox list, radio button list, etc. All these list controls have this items property. All the list controls in ASP.NET as items property. We can add items to the list box like this. We can add checkboxes to the checkbox list like this. We can add radio buttons to the radio button list like this. Likewise, all the list controls in ASP.NET can be populated with values. So, you try all these list controls, option button list, that is radio button list. Several option buttons or radio buttons can be added to the items property of radio button list. Checkbox list. Several checkboxes can be added to the items property of checkbox list. List box. List box and drop-down list are almost similar except in size. We can't grow the size of a drop-down list. Suppose I am placing a drop-down list and making the size, means making the width or making the height will not change. But in list box, the height can be changed. Multiple items can be displayed at the same time. In drop-down list, only one item can be displayed. In list box, multiple items can be displayed. So these are the difference between list box and drop-down list. So all the list controls can be populated by means of this property, items property. So I think you understand the property and methods. Items property and the methods such as items.add, items.remove and items.clear. Three main methods are used, and one property, count property, to count the number of items in the drop-down list. In case of list box, to count the number of items in the list box. Okay, thank you.